Hey guys, Wade with Texas Long Range Hunting. Today we're going to talk about a subject I get asked quite often. That is, how do I get into long range shooting? That is a long topic because we could go on forever about this, but I'm going to attempt to break it down into something that's going to get you going. Now, first thing you need to ask yourself is, what do you consider long range? Because if you're going out to the 500-600 yard mark, I would just consider that extended range. Now that's a little bit different skill set and a little bit different equipment set than it is going long range, and I also consider that to be 1,000 yards and beyond. So today we're just going to talk about long range shooting, 1,000 yards and beyond, and more specifically hunting and stuff like that. My equipment set is going to be a little bit more driven towards the hunting side of things. I don't get out and do much PRS shooting. I want to, but one of these days I may have time to do it. We'll see. So what do you need? Well, obviously you need to go practice. That's right. Go sit down on a 100-yard bench and work on those marksmanship skills. If you can't shoot a really small, I'm going to throw out half-inch group at 100 yards, you don't need to be shooting game at 1,000 yards. That's just my personal opinion. Everyone says 1 MOA will do. I like to see sub MOA, or even smaller. That's just my personal want, needs, personal opinion. Take that for what it's worth. So we work on them marksmanship skills while we're buying up the equipment that we need to get going. Next, rifle. Now you can practice with just about anything. You can practice marksmanship skills with a 22. You can practice with a 223 and everything else. But when it comes to shooting long range and hunting long range especially, you need to make sure your caliber is well equipped to do the job at hand. If I want to shoot an Aoudad at 800 yards, you better take something that's bigger than a 223, and that's just a fact. They're pretty tough animals. So make sure your caliber and your projectile and all that good stuff is proper for what the job you want to do. I will not get into that because this video could go on for hours. Do your own research, go from there, ask a few guys that do these types of things, and they'll usually give you some solid suggestions. So we have a rifle. Now let's talk about optic. First thing you need to ask yourself is, what is my budget? And if your budget is too low, take some time, practice on the bench, and save up some more money. But the great thing is nowadays is optics are getting a lot cheaper. You're getting a lot more value for your dollar. Do your homework, get the one that you can afford within your budget that's going to make sense, and it's going to track true. Now tracking, usually in a hunting scenario, you're going to be dialing your elevation, holding for wind. So I place more importance on the elevation turret than I do the windage turret because I very rarely dial for wind. It just hardly ever happens. So you want to make sure you get an optic that tracks true. You don't want to have to worry when you're dialing that scope, is this thing going to go where my dope tells me to go? Do your homework once again and get a good optic, because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that. If your optic is not tracking true, going where it's supposed to go, you're not going to hit what you're shooting at, or you're going to wound something. So we got a rifle, we got an optic, we've been practicing on the bench. What's next? I would have to say is a wind meter. Now there's a bunch of different options available out there nowadays, but Kestrel is probably the top of the game. Now there's a bunch of different Kestrel options, but I would suggest at least getting a 2500 series because it reads wind, altitude, temperature, all the stuff you really need. There is more upgraded models, and you can get into that at a later date. You will always use that little 2500 series. Now, the best thing you can do is carry that wind meter around with you at all times, especially if you plan on hunting long range, because what you need to do is become efficient at reading wind, reading mirage, looking at your surroundings and seeing what they're doing in certain types of wind. When animals walk by, you can look at the dust and see how it flows away. When leaves blow, you can see what they're doing in different types of winds. And the reason for the wind meter is because you're wanting to check the wind and look around at your surroundings when you're not even shooting or hunting. You're constantly wanting to train yourself on what certain things you're going to be doing during certain winds and learn how to read mirage. There's tons of good videos on YouTube out there on how to read mirage and stuff like that. And you're constantly looking at your wind meter and going from there. And it's also going to tell you all your other stuff that you need to plug into your ballistics app to give you your solution. Now next is the ballistics app. You can download that right there on your smartphone and go from there. I like StreetLock Pro or Sterilock, whatever you say it. It costs a little bit every month, but I found it to be really good for myself. Look into the ballistics app because you're going to need it for some sort of ballistic solution. Now, before you can plug in a ballistic solution, you need to know your velocity. Now, this is not something you really need to go off the printed velocity on the box. Some companies have gotten a lot better about printing the correct velocity or close to it, but you're going to want your own little chronograph, unless a buddy has one that you can use anytime to get your own velocity. Now, there is a good company called Magneto Speed that puts out a sporter model that's less than $200. I would opt out for the V3 that costs $400 because it's a little bit better, but if you have at least the sporter model, you're going to be able to get your velocity. And what you're going to want to do is get your velocity and then check your velocity in different temperatures. And your app should have a place to true up your data. Because if your data isn't true, nothing else is going to be true. And at the end of the day, you're still going to have to go out and shoot and practice. This isn't something that you can just do in one day's time and be proficient at all times, during all temps, during all wind scenarios, everything else. This is going to take time, practice, and a little bit of money to get into. But it is very rewarding the first time you make your first long distance kill, like on an aoudad, a goat, a whitetail, whatever. It's very rewarding when you put in all this practice and you do everything just right and you ethically dispatch the animal. There's nothing else like it, in my personal opinion. And it's actually re-sparked a love for deer hunting with me, being able to hunt them long range and stuff like that. That's pretty much it. I know that's very quickly covering everything, but that's your bullet points. Rifle, practice, rifle, optic, wind meter, chronograph, ballistics app. That's pretty much what you need to get started. That's it for this week, and we'll see you guys next time.